Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited to be here on another edition of the Entrepreneurs in Action Nuts and Bolts of Leadership. And we will unfold and explore conversations that make a difference. It's all about sharing wisdom, sharing experiences, sharing ideas and concepts that work. And so, I've been in the direct selling space full time for 28 years now. And I'm passionate about making a difference. That's what drives me. That's what gets me most excited in life, is when I can give away something that I've gone through maybe in life and share it with another, and they can go on to create a ripple effect with that and experience the differences in their own life. And so if I just share a little bit about my journey for those that maybe have never heard it before, then I'll just say that as a young entrepreneur, I started my first hustle when I was 11 years old. And from that point onwards, I learned things that most people do not learn ever. That's just statistically, most people never learn that stuff ever. And those that have an entrepreneurial feel or instinct inside them will go on to learn oftentimes much later on in life. And so I'm really blessed in that, and I always count my blessings for that, in that I was exposed to these fundamentals and principles from a very young age. And how was I exposed to them? Well, first of all, being a Patel, you're naturally indoctrinated with entrepreneurial philosophy and fundamentals from the day you're born. It's in our DNA. For those that don't know, there's a state in India called Gujarat, and it is the wealthiest state in all of India. And they're all entrepreneurs. And so if you've ever heard of all of the corner shop people in England, that would be 90% us. Back in the early days. In the USA, it's the motels and the 7-Elevens and Dunkin' Donuts and all of the franchises. That would all be Patels predominantly, and Gujarati. So it's in our nature. In fact, some of the wealthiest Asians on the planet are Gujarati. You may have heard of Mittal in England. The wealthiest man in England is a Gujarati steel magnate. Ambani Group in India, so many of them, there's just uncountable numbers. Top CEOs of Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Microsoft, etc., all Gujarati. So not by coincidence, I don't think. I think life is full of patterns. And when you start looking into these things, I just count my blessings that it's in my DNA, stuff that people take a lifetime to learn. We're taught from birth. And so that's why I'm passionate about making it available to everybody. That, gosh, if everyone knew this stuff, like, why isn't it taught in schools, right? Why aren't we taught from a young age how to hustle, how to find our way, how to turn A plus B into Z, right? Rather than A plus B into C. So how can you accelerate results? How can you compound your skills and your learning to produce massive results in short time frames? By the time I was 14 or 15, around that kind of age, during my secondary school, my 1 hour a day side hustle, my lunch hour side hustle, was earning me more than most adults were earning full time as an average wage back then. And things like that. So I'm sitting there going, hold on, if I can make in 1 hour what most people work 40 hours a week to make, then why am I going down this line of what my parents were trying to teach me at the same time? So on the one hand, they've taught me all these entrepreneurial principles, and on the other side, they're talking about getting academic education so that you can get yourself a really good job. And I'm like, hold on, we've got all this wisdom here, and you want me to do this, which makes no sense to me. The reason they wanted that is because as entrepreneurs, as good as it is at the top end, it can be really rough at the bottom end. And my parents were successful entrepreneurs in Africa, and when they came to England in the 1970s, so in the 70s, then they started from scratch. So their empire that they built in Africa, they had to leave behind, and they started from nothing in England and built up. And so they've seen, they worked factory jobs, they worked jobs that were 2 jobs, 3 jobs, weekends, evenings, and daytimes. They did everything they could to collect the pennies to eventually get self-employed again. So I'm like, hold on, you guys yourselves have always been entrepreneurs. The little time that you worked, 10 years that they worked, from 1970 to 1979, 9 years that they worked in physical jobs, was very little progress compared to when they bought their first business in 1979 the progress over the next 3 years was accelerated. What do I mean? 9 years working in jobs, we never ate in restaurants. Within 3 years of owning their own business, they were able to afford to eat in restaurants. For me, it's a little simple example, but it told me everything. That when you have your own business, you have leverage over everyone else. Leverage in that you can work longer hours. So they used to do that. The shop used to be open from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. When I took over, when I was 19, to help out when my dad got sick, I took over for a couple of years and ran it. I extended that. So I extended to 11 p.m. at night, right? So literally, because the extra business in the evenings, we had an alcohol license, an off license. We used to lose out on a lot of business with people that would want to go and buy a bottle of whiskey or a couple of cans of beer or whatever it was in the evening. So working longer hours equaled more profit. Really simple philosophy. Most people don't have that opportunity. So if I just do it like this, you can work 40, if I offered you this option, work 40 hours a week for 40 years or 80 hours a week for 20 years and retire, which one would you take? And I would guess, and I don't know because my world is different oftentimes to most people's, but if you could get 40 years work done in 20, why wouldn't you? Can you see? If you can do 40 years worth of work in 20 years and enjoy the other 20 years, why wouldn't you want to do that? Like for me, it's a no-brainer. It's instant no-brainer. Well, by the same effect, if you could do 120 hours a week and do 40 years in, what would that be? A third of 40, like 12 years, 13 years. Can you see? It's just leverage. If I could do 40 years work in 13, wouldn't I do that? Yes, all day long, every day of the week, especially when I'm young and I've got the energy to do it. I'd rather work from 20 to 35, work my tail off and be done at 35. Just makes sense to it appeals to my logic, to my common sense. Now, it may not appeal to everybody's, right? May not appeal to everybody's. Some people, would say no, but the fact of the matter is most people don't even have that option. That it doesn't even exist as an option in their mind because we're so trained from our youth to work into that 40-hour week. It's just how life is designed for most people. 9 to 5 is the norm. That's what we're taught from a young age, right? That it's 9 to 5 is the grind. The grind is 9 to 5. No, the grind is not 9 to 5. It's from 5 to 9, right? 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's the grind. Accelerating results. We've got the ability to do it. And for me, at 54, I appreciate more than ever that I really hustled young because I built solid foundations and principles and learned and built ethics that allowed me to continue through the ups and downs of business to, number one, outperform everyone around me and always enjoy a certain level of lifestyle that most people never know. I was a millionaire by the time I was 23. And even when I say it now, it makes me laugh because it's just not normal, is it? Like, it's weird saying that, like, not because I was planning it, not because I was setting goals, not because I was visualizing, but because I just understood some fundamentals and principles. So number one is the leverage of time. Number two is the leverage of money. I knew that if I compounded the profits I made, and it was really simple. It started when I was 11 years old. So my first deal with my dad was give me stock for free. I'll take it to school. I'll sell it in my lunch hour. And the stock was, he had a sweet shop. So I'd have a bag full of, I'll take some cans of Coke, some crisps and some chocolate bars and I'll sell them and I'll come back and I'll pay him for the stock and I'll keep the profit. But it wasn't long before I had enough profit to buy my own stock. So I got a credit line. You see, 11 years old. What 11-year-old knows about credit line? I did. I got a line of credit from my dad for a day. It was a morning till evening credit line. As soon as I got home from school, I had to pay off the credit that I took from him and I kept my profit. So I understood basic fundamentals of finances from a very young age. Not that I'd studied it, not I'd learned it, but I experienced it. Do you see the difference? You can read about this stuff and theorize it, but when you experience it, then you know differently. So it wasn't long before I had enough profit to not take a credit line. And I'd just buy the stock daily and I would buy other stock. So I expanded my range of options to people. I started making sandwiches. I remember I used to go to Safeways. I'd buy a loaf of bread every day. I'd buy those pre-made slices of cheese, Kraft cheese slices, and I'd go and get some cucumbers, some tomatoes, some mayonnaise. My mum would make me a little spice, a little extra spice. That was a secret sauce that I'd add into the sandwiches, and people loved them. And I knew those sandwiches cost me about 9 pence each, and I'd sell them for 30 pence. And people thought it was an absolute bargain because the taste was amazing. They were left satisfied. So, 30p for a sandwich, a can of Coke, a bag of crisps, a bar of chocolate. I was taking like a few quid off of everybody every lunchtime. And I started making my little fortune. So like I said, that led me 14, 15 years old. I'm making a full-time income with my 1 hour lunchtime hustle. It didn't end there. What I would also do, I managed to, back then, teachers were flexible, schools were a little bit more flexible. I managed to negotiate my class teacher to leave the classroom open at lunchtimes so I could keep kids out of trouble. How did I do that? Well, I would run my tuck shop from the classroom versus from my bag in a corridor. So I cleaned up the corridors, but also I created a games room out of the classroom. We'd move all the tables to the edges of the room, and I bought these handheld games. Nintendo brought out handheld games, Snoopy, Donkey Kong, stuff like that. And I was in a luxury position to afford those. Other kids couldn't afford them. And so what did I do? I'd buy them from Argos as soon as they came out, the latest game. I'd put them on the table and I would rent them out at 10 pence a game. My Nintendo would be paid for like in a month, and everything after that was profit. Again, incredible business knowledge. Imagine you could buy an asset that would pay you rent, that would pay itself off in a month, and then it was profit every month after that. Incredible. That means I was making 100% a month. I was doing this in my 15s, like teens. Making sense? So these kind of principles, but they can work everywhere. It's business, right? Later on in life, I heard about Jim Rohn, and he would say, he learned, or he teaches his students to buy 2 bikes, one to ride and one to rent out. Well, I was doing that. I was doing it practically, right? So for me, I get that. I get that very simple philosophy. And that just continued. Of course, like most millionaires on the planet that didn't inherit their money, they lose their money. And I did. I was very flippant, very arrogant. And I went through my own journey. I lost my dad. I lost interest. I lost focus. And as a result, I lost my business and I just kind of collapsed my life. Self-manifested massive pain and massive misery and all of that nonsense that people go through. I went through the same stuff. I've been through it more than once. I can tell you that as well. But it's a work in progress. We're constantly growing and learning and doing that stuff. What I didn't lose, I may have lost my vision and my perspective and my commitment, my passion, all of that towards business for a while. What I didn't do was lose the skills. And this is why I'm so passionate about getting people to learn the skills. Once you learn the fundamentals, you never forget them. And so 3 years after losing everything, I came across network marketing and I learned about personal development. And the two for me were hand in hand. And so for me, when I build my networks, I like to focus more on building the people versus building just the business. I am a firm believer that if we build the people, then the business builds itself. And so, success comes as a result of self-awareness. It comes as a result of becoming a better human being. I really do believe that. The better a human being you become, the more success you will attract, because people will be attracted to you. People are naturally attracted to humans that know themselves, love themselves, are comfortable in themselves, and are honest, trustworthy, reliable, integrous, genuine, transparent, authentic, all of these things, right? You throw all the great words into a pot, become that person, and guess what? Building businesses becomes much, much easier than if you're not congruent with yourself, all right? When you're not congruent with yourself, if you doubt, others will doubt. If you hesitate, others will hesitate. If you are unsure, others are unsure. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like there's an invisible, hidden way of being that works to your advantage, all right? Now, does that mean that without that you can't succeed? Of course it doesn't mean that. There are plenty of ruthless, self-centered, arrogant, uncaring individuals that are at the top of the food chain as well, all right? But this is a path that worked really well for me. I love that, I found that path versus a different path. There are some people, a lot of people that believe otherwise. They believe that you have to be really ruthless in business and, you have to put you first and profits first and all of that kind of stuff. And that's fine too. But I believe that you can get a really great balance by getting yourself right and then working through values. All right. So I teach a lot around that as well. Like, get your values clear. Like, who are you? What's important to you? What do you stand for? What's meaningful to you? So what's that phrase? If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. It's so true, because I know how often in my life, because of my values, because of what I stand for, I have refused to partner with people who want to do wrong, to my own detriment, to my own financial detriment. I have lost fortunes in possible income because I've stood for something and said, no, I'm not willing to do that. I will not participate in something that is damaging to the world or damaging to the economy or damaging to people. I just won't do it. That's me. So if I know that something's not right, I'll be the first person to walk away. Like I said, to my financial detriment, but to my personal and mental well-being and my spiritual journey's advantage. And that's what I mean by becoming the better human being, becoming a better version of yourself. And it's not easy. We are all on our journey and different parts of the journey. But for me, I'm always like, how can we elevate? How can we raise our standards? If we raise our standards, can you see that when you raise your standards, you can demand more from yourself? And by default, the people around you will start to demand more from themselves because they see you as the example. That's when you now start to lead. That's when you now start to influence. When you become something that others want to be like, they want to emulate, they want to mirror, then that's where, the phrase become attractive to the marketplace comes into place. Yeah. How you become attractive to the marketplace is by working on yourself. All right. Of course, you need to learn the industry you're in, the products and the services that you're promoting. You need to know that. That for me is the easiest stuff to know. So whatever company you're in, whatever product or service you're marketing, of course, you need to have some mastery, skill, understanding around that. Of course you do, because they're looking to you for confidence as much as you have is what you'll reflect in your organization, right? But more than that, way more than that for me, is having that for yourself, knowing who you are, knowing everything about how you're wired, how to get the best from yourself, how to notice when you're in self-sabotage mode, how to notice when you're detrimental to yourself, repairing that as you go along. You never escape that, right? Life is 100% opposites all the time. You never escape opposites. It's the nature of life. It's the nature of the universe. Everything that goes up must come down, as they say, right? Everything that expands must contract. Every wave that comes in goes back out. Every sun that comes up, every sunset is mirrored with a sunrise, or every sunrise is mirrored with the sunset, depending on what time of the day you want to count the clock. Every moon disappears and comes back again. The whole of life is like that. Everything is up and everything is down. Everything is in, everything is out. Everything's always moving. So once you understand that, then you own yourself as a human. To be human is to be up and to be down. But what you can do miraculously when you start understanding yourself is the ups and the downs, you can bring them closer together so that your emotional roller coaster is not bouncing you around up and down, up and down, up and down. That will give you headaches. All right. But rather it's more of a wave. And so you turn your way of being into a much more managed and efficient way so that it serves you better. So you never lose it and you never are over ecstatic, but you are able to be ecstatic when you want to be. And when you are angry or upset or all of those disempowering emotions that if they continue too long can disempower you, you can manage them. Example I use is, in the old days, if I broke up with a girlfriend, it would take me months to recover. Like insane. You literally lose months of your life, even years of your life, right? Crying about something that didn't work. Like, it's ridiculous when you look at it from a logic perspective, But that's humans, as you know, when we are emotionally untrained and we don't know, that's what we do. We will spend months or years in pain and suffering about something that happened years ago and that will not change by us being upset. We impact it zero by being upset 10 years after the event. And yet we're upset 10 years. It's ludicrous. If you describe that way of behavior to an alien, they'd be like, what are you talking about? You know, hold on a second. It makes zero sense. Can you see from a common sense perspective? We're human. We are endowed with every possible skill set that any species on the planet could have. We've got it all and more. And yet that's how we choose to live. Isn't it insane? Brothers that don't talk to each other till they die because they had an argument when they were 23, like stupidity to the highest level. Kids that don't talk to their parents because they had an argument when they were 17, just idiotic behavior. But that's all because nobody teaches us emotional intelligence. It's something we've got to teach ourselves. So we can all be self-taught. And that's what I love about this industry, is that it's all about being self-taught. So how much are you teaching yourself about you? And then the more you understand you, the more you understand others. It's common sense, right? You can't understand others if you haven't understood yourself. That's, again, it's another really low level communication that most humans live by. Most humans will give you their opinion when they haven't worked their own life out. Most humans will give you their own opinions about how your relationship could be better, how your finances could be better, how your health could be better, when they haven't worked anything out for themselves. Isn't it amazing? How many of you can relate? Happens all the time, right? Great advice givers, but and then you look at their life and you're like, hold on a second, who am I taking advice from exactly here? So take advice from yourself. Best person ever to take advice from is yourself, because you can do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can be there for you all the time. That's why it's important to be the best version of you. Work on you to improve yourself, to sharpen the sword, to be a better version of you, so that you can rely on you first. Be your first coach, be your first mentor. And then, guess what? Now you're able to take contribution from others who are also congruent and taken the time to understand themselves, and then you can create growth, all right? So then you can choose who you listen to, who you learn from, who you take advice from, rather than taking it flippantly from people that haven't taken the time, haven't invested the time to work stuff out and are winging it, all right? Doesn't mean the advice that they give is bad. It just means that they're winging it. It might work, it might not. But when you understand that everything has a science behind it, then why would you chance it? Why would you chance taking advice or taking somebody's opinion on that might or might not work? All right. It's always with good intention, but not necessarily from a place of experience. All right. So it's theoretical. It's like if somebody doesn't know how to swim and they're telling you to jump into the deep end and telling you, hey, listen, as long as you swing one arm in front of the other and you kick, you kick your legs, you'll be fine. Would you necessarily jump into the deep end? But if they jumped in first and look, this is how it's done, and then they say, okay, don't worry, I'm here. You've got your armbands on as well. And if anything goes wrong, I'm here to catch you. You can see I can do what I'm doing. I know how to do this. You're in good hands. Now you're going to be more confident and comfortable jumping into that deep end. So I use that example just as a simple thing to kind of relate to, right? Same with with anything in life. If you've got somebody that has been where you want to be, they're more likely to be able to give you better advice than if they haven't, or if they just giving you their version, their narrow version. All of us have a very narrow version of everything because we only have one perspective. The key to really understanding others, understand ourselves, then understanding others, is to understand that all of us have every emotional range inside all of us. This will help you to develop empathy, understanding, connection with others. Every single one of us has the ability to be as up or as down as every other one of us. If you understand that, then you can really connect with every human being on every level. And you can also start to move people, hence influencing, right? Becoming an influencer. We all influence. It's whether we're influencing with expertise or winging it. All right. Everyone's influencing everyone. Our parents influence us. All parents influence their kids, winging it. 99% of parents wing parenting. Imagine if you studied parenting and then parented. The odds of adding more value are increased substantially versus winging it. Can you see what I'm saying? So when it comes to financial success, you can wing it or you can work out the science. And this is how you work out the science, right? So what I love about this particular industry of network marketing is that, and I challenge anyone to show me another better way. All right. It's not perfect by a million miles, but it's better than any other option I've seen where you can help people. All right. You can help people take, and we call it a risk. It's not really a risk, right? A couple of $100, we spend that on a night out. We spend that on an outfit. We spend that on a weekend away. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing for what you get in network marketing. So that's what for me is the passion, that somebody can, anyone that is in a situation to get a couple of $100 together, a few $100 together, can transform their life. That's what network marketing offers. When people say, what do you do? That's what you do. You help people transform their life. And the cost, a few $100. And then everything you get out of it. All right. I often, I used to say this in my earlier years of network marketing success. When I started getting some toys, and people say, wow, how much is that watch? Or how much was that car? Or how much is that suit? And I'd link it back to the price of the opportunity. I say, oh, that cost me £2,000. They'd be looking at my Porsche going, what? What do you mean it cost you £2,000? Yeah, that cost me £2,000. And then you can see their brains getting scrambled. And I'll say, look, if you're interested, I can show you how to do it for £2,000 as well. Can you see? Really, really nice, fun, easy conversations. You can only do that in network marketing because it's true. It's a fact. It's a fact. If I spent £2,000 on a business and that business made me £150,000 to buy a Porsche, then it cost me £2,000. And it cost me some hours and some conversations and some interactions. But the financial cost was £2,000, right? That's the magic of this business. You can turn, a few $100s into thousands of dollars like that. You can do it within a year. Imagine within 1 year, if you're committed, if you're focused, if you're consistent with the education journey, the skill set learning, and you're showing up for yourself and for your team, then guess what? You can turn a few hundred into a few thousand within 12 months. You just can. And today more than ever. Now, if you're already advantaged and you've got skills that others don't have, you can turn a few hundred into tens of thousands. Imagine that. Only in this industry can you do that while helping others. All right. There's this other whole industry that's created a lot of wealth for people called affiliate marketing. But that is, you're not contributing, helping others. There's no leverage there. So the minute you stop selling, your income stops. That's why I love this. It ticks all of the boxes. Leverage. If you decide, if you've trained your organization and oiled the machine and organized things well, then you could not work for a weekend and still get paid that weekend. You could not work for a week and get paid that week. That's this industry. All right. There was a company that I did way back when. I worked for 2.5 years. And then I decided to move into another service. But that business continued to pay me for 6 years with zero work. Think about that. Where else is somebody going to pay you for 6 years for doing 2 years work? Only in this beautiful industry is that something that's open to everybody. Like, I mean, everybody. All right. And when I say, of course, everybody that's got a roof over the head and has, money for food and clothing can afford to get into this industry. Isn't that beautiful? So if people are struggling with finances, if they're living month to month, if they're living hand to mouth, if they're just getting by, then this is a solution. And that's what we do. We give people a solution to maximize the odds of them not having to live month to month or hand to mouth. So people have this illusion that success in network marketing is making millions. And yes, it's available, but that doesn't happen for most. All right. Success in network marketing is making an extra 300, 400, 500 a month so that you can breathe every month and smile instead of being stressed when the bills come through the post. Success in network marketing is if you can help somebody to bridge that gap between what they're earning and what they're spending. All right. So there's only a couple of ways. You can either reduce your spending or you increase your income. We help people increase their income so they don't have to reduce their spending. How about that? So it gives people a better lifestyle and a better life experience. That's what network marketing does. And that's the unspoken network marketing result. Nobody talks about those people that are making an extra 200, 300, 400, 500 a month. We hear about the people that are making 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, 100 grand a month, $1 million a month. Yeah, of course, you hear about those stories. But the real stories are the ones where people can finally breathe. Thank goodness that I can make it, I can sell a couple of pills and potions every month and pay my electricity bill. I can sign up a couple of customers onto this particular platform and pay for my children's school fees or whatever it might be. Everyone's got different things that they're dealing with. All right. Network marketing allows us to go out and help people deal with their life better. So that said, I want to get back to you guys now and open up the room for anyone that wants to share. What have you picked up today? What are you taking on board? What can you relate to, etc., etc. Just share your stuff with the audience that may be watching this now or even at a later date. And first off, I want to bring up John. How you doing, buddy? Good to have you here.
Good day. Thank you so much. Resonates with me so much, this call, because 6 years ago in February, I was a junkie. I was a cokehead. Just want to share that because
Wow.
I had nothing, and then I quit it, and then within I think it was the February, and then the October later, the October I quit. February I quit my full-time job, and that was 5 years ago. It's nearly 6 years I quit drugs, and then nearly 5 years I quit my full-time job. So then I went into self-employment. Self-employed, doing gardens, trees, etc., etc. But then lockdowns completely shut that off as well. So since 41, I retired from working for people, including myself, since I was 41, because I see I'm 44 next month. Yeah, I'm 44 next month. So 3 years has been a journey of me getting out of my own way and learning that if you get it right, people want what you've got, because I've got a residual income now. It's a very basic, but it's money for doing nothing. And I know that in this space of time, I've created money for doing nothing, as well as doing the network marketing, so I can still learn about myself and train myself, turn up to this every week, turning up to every single call, keep on at people. I'm learning the right ways to speak to people, which is a massive journey. I know a lot of the stuff is I'm not doing it the best I can do, but at that moment, I know it's the best I could do at that present moment, because that's the level that I know it from. But as I increase my level of knowledge by turning up to these trainings and the presentations and that residual income, daily income for doing nothing, is going to be 10x, 20x, 30x within the next year, within the next 4 months, whenever life catches me up to say, now, JB, you've got it right, so you can be fed that money for just seeing how life is, instead of doing the 9 to 5, doing the grind, and then using excuses that I'm too busy, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm too this. And it's like, go back. You mean just go and figure yourself out, and then come back when you're ready, because one day you will be. I'm always ready to listen. I'm always ready to help. And this is what I've learned. I'll never work for anybody again. Me and my family are traveling the world for the rest of our lives. We're in the Lake District at the moment, down to Spain in September for a month. And then from that, because I've just bought this car. And then from there, we're just going to go and travel the world on the bit of money that's going to keep growing and growing and growing, because I have faith in this present moment of me being me, the way that I'm doing everything in this present moment, that is right. So even if the self-doubts is like, cool, I love self-doubts because I mean I can still grow.
Yeah.
And I can carry on, but yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Wow, beautiful.
Excellent.
Thank you for sharing that, John. And
thank you.
yeah, no, I know it can take a lot for being vulnerable and open like that, and it's beautiful just to see that, because you've just shown everybody there's no excuse, right? You've been at an extreme end of life, and still, despite all of that, only you could get yourself out of that, and you did. So hats off, massive accolades.
And just one more thing, the only money I've ever put into it in the last two was £240 a long time ago, and it's only ever cost me profit. And the things that I've done, I've only ever used my profit to increase my status in that, and it's not cost me a thing.
Isn't that
So
amazing?
everything I do, it's money from the ether, the whatever, because it's just an emotion. It's just a byproduct of an emotion.
It is.
And I love it.
Beautiful. Love it. Thank you. Love that. You are a product of the product. John, you're up next. John number 2.
Kalpesh, hi. How you doing?
Great. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, fantastic. Listen, that was, first of all, that was amazing. Like John just mentioned, the other John, I can completely resonate with all of that from the start to the finish. You know, I used to do stuff. Unfortunately, if I can say unfortunately, I didn't come from a Patel family. I have that. Because I know that that's in the DNA. I mean, you know, the corner shop was always somebody that was open from early till late. And if you were on Christmas Day, like, oh my God, we forgot this, we need this, you could go to the corner shop and it was always available. So that's amazing. But yeah, a lot of nuggets come out of there. Too many to actually mention on this. But, you know, the emotional thing is an example. When I sort of first started in this industry, I used to get completely wiped out. When somebody said no, I wouldn't speak to anybody for a week because it's like, oh my God, rejection. This is just, I can't handle this. But along the journey, I used to have I used to pick up many mentors, and one of them was Ray Higdon. And I remember him telling the story that he built a 7-figure property portfolio. And then the 2008 kicked in, he lost everything. He ended up in 7 figures in debt and he was destitute, excuse me. And he was sleeping on his girlfriend's couch and he just went crazy. But one thing I learned from that was never become emotionally attached to the result. And that that transformation was me, it set me free because I don't lose it. If somebody says yes, it's great. If somebody says no, it's also great. If somebody says, I'll get in touch with you next week, it's great. I don't, you know, it's almost flatlining.
Yeah, love it. Love it, love it, love it.
and when you get to that point, and it's simple, but it's not easy because we're standing our own way, as John said. But when you become, emotionally detached from the result, it's a whole new game.
Yeah.
It's a whole new game, and conversations then become very interesting because you're not attached to the result. You're attached to the conversation. Can I help this person? Can I not help this person? So yeah, fantastic.
Beautiful. Look at that. So detaching from the emotion, beautifully explained. And thank you for that. So that's what it is. Again, you've heard from 2 people there that really have stayed the course. They've understood everything that I was sharing and are applying it. And it's a process, as John number 2 just said. It's not easy because, you know, being human, we will get attached. But how quickly can you unattach? And you can unattach in the moment, in the conversation. It's always happening. But it's either happening visibly or invisibly. And that's the journey of growth, right? In the beginning, it's very visible. I'll give you an example. I was in the process of selling one of my properties here a couple of months ago. And an agent thought he had sold the property. And anyway, long story short, we had a meeting, me, the agent, and another agent who actually he didn't know knew me. So he was introducing me to somebody that he was going to sell the property through, and they were already in conversation with me. So anyway, when we met, and I was like, and I introduced myself to his person that he was introducing me to, but we already knew each other. Of course, this person was no longer in the equation because they're already negotiating with me on the property. So he sat there with the longest face, angry, devastated, almost in tears in front of me and the other agent. And the whole time I was watching his body language, and I thought, if he had even a little bit of upbeat, hey, listen, okay, it's all good, everything's good. And if either of you want to look after me, great. And if you don't, great. probably would have looked after him. But he was making the other person wrong. He was making me wrong. He was just so in his own devastation that he killed the energy in the room. Like, everyone was uncomfortable the whole time we were sat there. And even when I left, it was like really uncomfortable leaving. And, as he left as well, he left in a real strop. All of that didn't do him any favors. Do you see what I'm saying? He did not help himself at all in that scenario. And he could have had it go a completely different way if he was in touch with this conversation that we're having now. If he could have sat there and smiled anyway and thought, that's interesting, the universe has decided to deliver this differently to how I wanted it to be delivered, but the universe is always working perfectly as it should. If that was his mindset, he could have produced a completely different outcome. And so, that journey there of how quickly can you let something go. Long story short, I then messaged him. He lost his job a couple of weeks after that, bless him, really lovely guy. And I messaged him after he lost his job, about 2 weeks after, saying, have you had any joy getting another job? I hope things are going well. No reply. He finally replied about 3-4 months later. He replied to me a couple of weeks ago saying, hey, sorry, Kalps. I know I was out of order. I'm really sorry about the way I behaved. I don't know what got over me. Anyway, point is, 4 months it took him to have a realization or have a moment of awareness, and then the courage to own that. Because that's another thing that happens. You're aware that you're being a dick, but you're not owning it, right? So owning your, if you like, emotional unavailability, unableness, whatever the word is around that, your inability to be emotionally aware, owning that is a massive part of the journey. Took him 4 months to own it. Now we're back in touch and reconnect, which is great, right? So, this is what's possible for us, is to be like John, be in the zone where you're having a conversation, and the conversation is not, can I get them in? But the conversation is, can I make a difference? Either I can make a difference or I can't make a difference, but the commitment is to make a difference. So we have the conversation from that place. And we, when you're committed to making a difference, it almost doesn't matter what the response or the reaction is on the other side. All that matters is, how are you able to handle the responses and the reactions and influence those reactions and responses and move them in a direction. And sometimes you can move them in a different direction instantly in the conversation, and other times you move them over time. It doesn't matter. All of that just becomes part of the game. So I hope that session has been powerful for everybody. I certainly enjoyed it, and I thank both Johns for sharing, because I know that's where extra value is added as well. And we're back here next Wednesday, as we are every Wednesday, same time, same place. Bring your contacts, bring your friends, bring entrepreneurs, bring people that want to be entrepreneurs, but haven't maybe found the courage, plucked up the courage to take the step, whatever it might be. People have talked about it. It's a great place just to let people know that there are people that care, and there's a community that they can plug into and benefit from, all right, to help them on their journey upwards. Thank you so much. See you next.